Hi guys, it's Simon from SA Tuning. What I thought we'd do today is we're actually in our dyno cell. What I thought we'd do today is just talk a little bit about a dyno, because it's not all about power runs and torque figures. The dyno itself can actually be used as a really good diagnostics tool. Now, we've got a two-wheel drive flashy dynamometer. So basically we've got 4 rollers, each one weighs about 500 kilos each. And what happens is we can run it in a full inertia mode or braked. Now there's 2 advantages to both and there's disadvantages to both. In full inertia mode, you'll actually get a horsepower reading of around about 0.1 horse, give or take, plus or minus. With the brakes on, when you have a really high powered car, what you can do is they're electromagnetic brakes. And what happens is, some of the big turbo cars, they need a lot of load to get the turbo spooled up. So fortunately here, we can do both. So we can have either full inertia mode, which enables a really, really accurate horsepower figure and torque figure, or if we have a really, really big turbo-powered car or a highly modified car, we can switch the brakes on and we can actually calculate the horsepower. It's still only about sort of 2-3 horsepower here or there, but we can actually get the turbo spooled up and actually get an accurate figure. Now, I was saying earlier that diagnostics is just as important as horsepower and torque. And what happens is that because we can run a car at say 120, 130 miles an hour, flat chat, foot to the floor, full acceleration, and hold it there, we can log lots of data at that particular point in time. And we can go back. No one's getting hit on the road, you know, we're not breaking any laws, we're not doing anything. And that really helps us to sort of pinpoint and get to what's actually happening inside the engine at any certain point. Now, if you guys come with me, so the way that a dyno works is that you have all these big rollers here, and now on the bottom of each one of those rollers, there's a little crank sprocket that has a wheel speed sensor on it. And all that information is transmitted down this pipe, down this wire here, to this computer. What this computer does is we have to calculate not only how fast the car's going, but we also have to calculate load and drag. So when the horsepower comes from the front of the engine, it will come down the drive shaft, particularly on this BM. It will come down the prop shaft to the rear differential, through the rear wheels, through the bearings, and then onto the rollers. So all that has an amount of drag effect onto the actual engine, because what we want to do is we want to measure flywheel horsepower. We don't want to measure necessarily wheel horsepower because we're interested in the engine, not everything else. So when we get to full speed in a gear, we release the clutch and let it run down. And what's happening then is working out how long it's taken to run down in comparison to get up to that speed, and then that can calculate how much drag has gone through from flywheel, from the diff in the gearbox, through to the prop shaft, through the diff, through the bearings, through everything, to the wheels. And so then we can get a very, very accurate horsepower figure at the flywheel, which is what we're interested in when we're tuning engines. What we'll do now is we'll just show you a bit of live data and login and how it works. See, we have, obviously we can't see this screen when we're sitting in the car, so what we have is we have a separate laptop that's linked wirelessly to this to this computer here, which enables us to see everything on this screen here whilst we're sitting in the car. So if we take some bits and bobs, now we've got, we use an Autel machine, which is one of our diagnostics tools. Autel seems to work really well with BMs, and it gives us an awful lot of information. So what we do is we jump in, so hopefully you can see. So what happens is we have to set the dyno up properly. So we have to teach into the dyno what gear ratio we're using, so what gear we're using in comparison to what wheel speed that is in comparison to engine RPM. So what we need to do is we need to teach the dyno that at this particular speed, this is how many revolutions per minute that the dyno will do at the wheel at 2000 RPM. So we'll hold it at 2000 RPM. So as you can see now, so we've set the calculation, we want it to measure at 2000 RPM. So at 2000 RPM in 5th gear, there we go, there it goes, calculate now. So it changes that gear ratio down, and then so at 62 miles an hour at 2000 RPM in 5th, that's our gear ratio. And this is where the computer and the software is really clever and how it calculates exactly what's happening. So now we have to wait for that to run down, and whilst this is all recording, see there's all plenty of information there. So we've got engine speed, intake air temperature, which is really quite important, ambient pressure, mass airflow, which is quite important as well, for us to calculate what's happening. So not only with this, in the background it's also recording other things like boost pressure, fuel pressures, injection duration as what's actually hitting. So this is all a stock car at the moment. So what we're actually going to do is just going to log all this data so that then when we go to tuning we can look back at all of this and work out exactly what's happening and get an exact tune for this car using its software. And as you can see, the graph starts to draw. Now every time you change gear, she'll drop down because it hasn't started to accelerate. Here we go in 5th, and off she goes. And then we hit the rev limiter. So what it's doing now is we allow the car to run down. We allow the software to calculate exactly what's happening through all the drag, like I was saying earlier, with the prop shaft, drive shafts, diff, everything. And then we can go back and look at all of that information in comparison to the exact engine RPM. And across the bottom of this graph, you see here, all the way down here is engine RPM. So what we can see, so sometimes we'll see blips and dips and overboosts and peaks and things like that on stock cars, and we can work out, okay, so say there was a dip there at 2,500 RPM, there's a dip, okay, when we can look back at the live data and go, right, what happened at 2,500 RPM, and then it will give us exactly what was happening, and it gives you a really good insight into what's happening inside the combustion engine. So here we go, we're nearly round down. So we're going to hit 30 miles an hour because we don't really need to know anything else about that. There we go. This is 138 brake BMW 118D, and we've hit 140 horse and 305 Newton meters. So realistically, that is bang on the money. The graph actually looks completely stock. So that's a really good thing. So this car fortunately doesn't have any problems. But so with all the live data, one of the important parts as well is turbo pressure. So you have two things. You'll have specified air pressure and actual charge air pressure. So specified is what the ECU is asking for, and that will control boost solenoids and actuators to achieve the desired boost. Now, and then actual is measured by the mass air pressure sensor, and that will tell us exactly what boost pressure is in the intake system. So if you just have a look at the screen there, we'll do a run and you can see, so if you watch the graph line, that will change with acceleration. Here we go. So the green line is specified, which is what the ECU is asking for, and the blue line is what's actually being achieved. So this is a full run. We're now off our way up, and as you can see, they're actually, the idea is that these are exactly the same. You'll never get them exactly, but that is pretty bang on for being perfect. So you've got specified and charge and actual air pressure meeting each other, and that's how you log boost. And that's really, really important when tuning a vehicle. So when we're specifying, say, 1.5 bars and we're only getting 1.3 bar, then we can start looking at boost leaks, we can start looking at actuator problems, we can start looking at boost solenoids, we can start looking at all sorts of things. But without logging it, you'll never know. And that's why we always log boost when we're running cars on the dyno. So that we can see that, well, is the car actually reaching what it's supposed to be reaching, or is it going past what it's supposed to be reaching? And that's where limp modes can be caused, underboost and overboost conditions, if you're not reaching what's specified in the ECU. And what we change when we tune a car is we change the specified part of it so that and then the car has to reach that. So sometimes you'll get an underboost condition, so we're asking for, say, maybe 200 millibar more, but it just can't get there because there's a small boost leak or there's a vacuum leak or there's something wrong like that. So if you've got any questions about having a dyno run, if you want to know how much horsepower you're running, or if you wanted to get your car tuned with us, you can contact us on 033344 0136. You can contact us info@satuning.co.uk. You can jump on our website and you can contact us through that as well. We've got a full contact form, or you can message us here at Facebook, and yeah, we'll do our best to respond. Thank you.